Ready to read. Level 3. History of fun stuff. The sweet story of hot chocolate. Content, Chapter 1. A special drink. Chapter 1. A special drink. On a cold winter morning, a cup of hot chocolate hits the spot. That goes for winter afternoons too. In winter evenings, or any time there's a little chill in the air. All by itself or topped with marshmallows or whipped cream, hot chocolate is hard to beat. But do you know who drank hot chocolate first and how they made it? Or how long it took to become popular around the world? Or what was the strangest thing ever added to it? Hint, it has to do with whales, but more on that later. That's where this book comes in. By the time you finish reading it, you will know the answers to all these questions and many more. You will be a history of fun stuff expert on hot chocolate. Hot chocolate begins as a bean that grows in a pod on a cacao tree. The word cacao looks familiar, right? That's because the English word cocoa comes from the word cacao. After the beans are dried and roasted, the shells are removed. What's left is called the nibs. They are crushed into small bits or fine powder. So far, this sounds simple enough. But how long do you think this has been going on? Records show that the Olmec people of Central America were growing cacao beans at least 3,500 years ago. 2,700 years before anyone started roasting another kind of bean to make coffee. The cacao beans became especially popular once somebody decided and convinced other people that they had magical properties when ground up and mixed with water and different ingredients like chilies, corn, or honey, to name a few. But they used this drink as a medicine as well as something to have on special occasions. As time went on, knowledge of the drink was passed from the Olmecs to the Mayans and then to the Aztecs. The cacao beans were even used as a kind of money. With only one bean, you could get yourself a tamale. But if you were planning a big dinner with friends or family, you could trade 100 beans for a turkey. Of course, you'd need more beans than that if you planned on serving hot chocolate during the meal.
Chapter 3 Tinkering with Success. A lot of people probably thought hot chocolate couldn't get any better. After all, for thousands of years, the recipe had simply called for cacao nibs ground into bits or powder and added to hot water, and later milk, along with other flavors. But a Dutch chemist wondered if improvements could still be made. In 1828, a process emerged to separate cocoa butter from the nibs. The remaining powder, called Dutch cocoa or cocoa powder, was easier to make drinks with because it dissolved more easily into milk or water. Hot cocoa, slightly different from hot chocolate, was born. Among those who later bought one of these machines were the sons of John Cadbury of England, who were developing chocolate products of their own. Cadbury chocolates are still being produced today. Have you ever tried one of them? In 1847, the British chocolate company J.S. Fry and Sons began mixing Dutch cocoa with melted cocoa butter. The result was a sweet paste that could be molded into chocolate bars. This was the first time that chocolate was eaten as a solid food instead of only being used on ingredient in the hot chocolate drink. Not surprisingly, it was popular at once. Some of the chocolate manufacturing machines were exhibited at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. After the fair ended, they were bought by an enterprising candy maker named Milton Hershey. Have you ever heard his name before? Hershey forced to use the chocolate from his new machines to coat the caramel he'd already made, but then he sold that company to start a new venture. He bought a large tract of farmland in Peninsula. He needed the land to build a factory where cows would graze nearby. Why cows? Because Hershey wanted to manufacture bars of milk chocolate, which until then were an expensive threat. Treat. To do that, of course, he would need a lot of milk. It took Hershey a while to develop the right formula. His first chocolate bars appeared in 1900 and have been a big success ever since. Even today, some people like to break off a piece of a Hershey's chocolate bar and melt it into a cup of hot chocolate to make it sweeter. Chapter 4, Hot Chocolate on the Move. Even though hot chocolate originated in warm climates, it has a special appeal on a cold day. And the days don't get much colder than the ones at the North and South Poles. When Norwegian explorer ol은-ol곶은 was looking for the South Pole in 1911, he made sure everyone in his expedition was well supplied with chocolate. It helped keep up everyone's strength as the group crossed the frozen landscape, and maybe even help him to become the first person to reach the South Pole on December 14 of that year. Hot chocolate also continued to be a favorite of American soldiers. It was included in combat rations during World War II and is still a staple of military cuisine. Today's troops are issued meals ready to eat MRES featuring such taste bud teasers as beef teriyaki and chicken fajitas. But they also include cocoa mix in case the soldiers are in the mood for some quick energy and a reliable taste of home. Of course, for some people, drinking hot chocolate isn't complete without a few marshmallows sitting on top. Originally, marshmallows were made from egg white, sugar, and the sap of the marshmallow plant, which is where they got their name. In the 1800s, French candy makers started substituting gelatin for the marshmallow sap. They kept the name though, maybe because it sounded better than anything new they could come up with, even in French. Today's marshmallows are run through machines that mold the mixture into soft cubes with rounded corners. They are available in both large and small sizes and will melt in a cup of hot chocolate after first flowing on the top. But are marshmallows the only thing people put in hot chocolate? Certainly not. Let's not forget about whipped cream. Like butter and regular cream, whipped cream starts out as milk. Records of its popularity date to the 1500s. To create it, cream that had risen to the top of the milk was gently whipped to create the foam that could be taken away. The whipping had to be done carefully though. If it was done too strenuously, the cream would turn to butter. The foam was then sweetened with sugar. Sometimes known as snow cream, whipped cream took a while to create by hand. By the late 1800s, making whipped cream became much easier with the invention of machines that separated the cream mechanically. These days, hot chocolate is a drink enjoyed around the world. Not that everyone enjoys it in exactly the same way. In Morocco, hot chocolate is flavored with orange and spice. In Australia, the whipped cream piled on top may be just as important as hot chocolate hidden underneath. In Mexico, vanilla and cinnamon are favored flavors. The strangest thing ever added to hot chocolate, though, is probably ambergris. This is kind of fat that lines the intestines of sperm whales. A 19th century French food writer recommended adding it to chocolate drinks. Why do you think of that idea?